I get it. Friends may not always be available. People cancel last minute. And sometimes you just kind of want to do your own thing. So why not go by yourself? After having solo traveled a bunch of times, I've actually learned a thing or two about it. It comes with a lot of pros and a huge list of cons. I want to make this video to help you if you are thinking about solo traveling so that you know what exactly you're getting yourself into. Pro number one, you get to go wherever you want, whenever you want. You decide the pacing, you pick the itinerary. It is just all on you. That is reason enough for anybody to solo travel. I mean, the burden of other people's wants, desires, needs, it's non-existent anymore. And you don't have to deal with, the communication with your other person. You can just go. If you don't like a certain place, or if you don't want to go to a certain place, you just don't have to. It is honestly quite freeing. Pro number two, you notice a lot more in your environment. You're much more at peace and you're much more in tune with your surroundings. Sometimes when you have a person with you, you talk to them, you share the experience, and then you might miss out on a couple things. But when you're solo traveling, you're much more present, Check this out. I personally feel so much more calm and at peace, and I can actually look at these monuments and look at these landmarks and actually think to myself and process these things and emotions wow, I'm staring at this huge painting of Jesus Christ that's 1,000 years old. I am looking at literal history right here. Sometimes with a person, they have something to say, but just being able to sit there and process it yourself, that's something that traveling with other people just doesn't really allow you to do. Pro number three, and this is sort of dependent on your personality, who you are, but it actually leads to more social interactions. Sometimes when you're with another person, you kind of tend to stick with that other person and you don't really go out and socialize all that much. But when you're solo, you're actually more inclined to go out of your way and socialize with more people. I tend to have the worst RBF. And so sometimes it's a little bit harder for me to, make friends. But once I start talking to people, then I try to get it out of them. But you tend to meet more people doing this, and you have friends in different areas now, the more you solo travel. I have friends in Egypt, I have friends in Istanbul, I have friends in Poland, I have friends in the Philippines, and it's such a cool feeling. Pro number four is personal growth. You start to learn how to rely on yourself and to trust yourself and to be self-sufficient in a way. Something that staying at home or being with other people doesn't really allow you to do. Being able to book things by yourself and to be on time and to know exactly what to do in certain situations and learning different things. That's something that you build in yourself, and that's something that builds your character, and it builds, honestly, a ton of self-confidence. In fact, the confidence that I have today is all confidence that I've gotten from solo traveling. So all that money, all that time, and all that energy spent on solo traveling was all worth it because it made me a more confident person, more confident in my ability to just get stuff done and to be on top of things. That is something solo travel has taught me to do. Once you do it, you will know exactly what I mean. Now, let's get into the cons. People glamorize going on solo adventures all the time, but they rarely talk about these cons. And honestly, the first con, and you probably guessed it, is loneliness. When I'm solo traveling, I'm alone 80% of the time. I go to restaurants alone, I go on tours alone, I go to cafes alone, I go on airplanes alone, I go on transportation alone, I go to destinations alone. I enjoy myself at bars and beaches just alone sometimes. You're in a completely new place that's far away from home where you probably don't know many people. That sometimes can be very, very lonely. Chances are, if you're in a different country, there's a language barrier. So even if you try to talk to someone, or even if you try to just, ask for directions, it's a struggle because there's a language barrier. I remember I was sitting in the train station in Poland, sitting there waiting for my train, and I was like, I am alone right now. And so yeah, it does get quite lonely sometimes. And there's certain landmarks and certain things that you do or activities where you want to share it with the other person and to, at least talk to somebody about it. But you just kind of have to go home by yourself and process it on your own. And so to combat this, I would highly suggest you stay in a hostel, just an accredited hostel, one that's not just like a random hostel. Hostels are a great way to meet people and to go on random spontaneous adventures. I've stayed in hostels before and I've had nothing but just great experiences, met a ton of people through that. There was one night I probably met more than 50 people in just one night. Another thing that I would recommend doing is just going to bars, going to cafes more. If you have work, definitely go to cafes. That way you can just be open to more social interactions. So be open, but yeah, loneliness definitely is a con. Con number 2, this is a big con, which is you are in charge of the research, the planning, the booking, the logistics, the itinerary. This can be extremely overwhelming for some people. You don't have that second extra opinion on certain things and that shared responsibility. All that responsibility falls on you. A good resource that I like to use is honestly ChatGPT. Sometimes if I don't know anything about a certain place or I need a mock sort of itinerary, I honestly just ask ChatGPT, I'm in this place for X amount of days. Can you build me just a rough itinerary? And then you can sort of just build off of it from there. But it's not always going to be accurate. Actually, a really good resource that you can use for researching is you can watch travel vloggers. Listen to what their experience was like. What tips do they have? What do they recommend? What do they not recommend? A lot of them are pretty honest, so you should be pretty well informed. But yes, all the logistics, all the planning, and all of the booking does fall on your hands. If you miss just one night on the itinerary, you now have no place to stay on that one night. Con number 3, I feel like I gotta say it, is increased costs. Since a lot of times you tend to split costs with your friends when you're traveling, all that expense falls on you now. If you were to travel with 2 other people for a few nights in an Airbnb, being at $300, it would have cost each person $100. But now, no, it costs you the full $300. Number 4 is safety. You really do gotta watch your back, you gotta watch your valuables, and you also just gotta be aware of where you are at all times. Having a friend sometimes is a good way to stay safe in certain places, but since you're alone, people will see that and that makes you a little bit more vulnerable to certain characters, I luckily have never had a bad experience before yet. But I do hear some stories where, people get harassed, people get followed and stuff, and it's all because they're solo. If you get sick, you drink the water or, you get food poisoning, that can kind of suck. You're just laying in bed all day and you're not doing anything. And you don't have a friend there with you who can sort of take care of you, or at least that someone is there with you and that you're not just sitting there suffering for no reason. Number 5 is certain mistakes do have more consequences. I remember one time I was on a bus to a certain city and there were multiple stops. I fell asleep. We were at the bus stop at my destination and I was still asleep. And the bus was boarding with people that I didn't recognize on the way here. So I was like, what is going on? I look outside and I'm like, wait, we're at our destination. And the bus was literally right about to leave. And so I was like, oh shit. So I grab my stuff, I get out of the bus driver was obviously pissed because they're on a schedule. Then I'm like, oh no, I need to get my luggage, grabs my luggage, and I'm like, holy shit, that was so close. And I'm just thinking if I had somebody there with me, that wouldn't have happened. Not to scare you, but that's something to take into consideration. This is the last con that I'm gonna talk about, but it's also something that I've kind of experienced, which is you kind of miss out on like social norm feedback. You don't have that second person, that second opinion that helps set the vibe, you know? Sometimes when the culture, the language, and the mannerisms are different, I guess this is sort of like a nervous thing. You walk into a room, you're nervous, you kind of don't really know what to do, what to say. And sometimes having a friend there kind of does help with that to help set the vibe a little bit. That is my full list of my pros and cons of solo traveling, at least from what I've experienced. Hopefully it helps you as well. Like I said, solo traveling is one of the most beautiful, most uncomfortable, most rewarding experiences that life has to offer. So if you have the means and if you have the opportunity to solo travel, you should 100% take it. But like I said, it requires research. It's a lot of responsibility. Just a couple safety tips. Always have 1 or 2 friends and some family members that know your full itinerary, just so they know where you are, what you're up to. And if in case they don't hear from you, they at least can refer back to your itinerary and they can find you. You can also have somebody that you can message at night before you go to sleep, just to let them know that you're okay, you're sleeping, you're alive. I call these proof of life sort of messages. So anyways, have a lot of fun. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It feels really, really good to be back in this chair. It's been a little bit since my last video, but I promise you I will be making more content soon, so stay tuned. And I'll see you guys in the next one.